Detroit Lions might have lost their preseason opener last night, but there are some camp battles that are very intriguing after night number one.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's good, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is a Friday edition of Locked On Lions on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Thanks for being with us. Coming up on the program today, we will end the show with our call of the day. And yes, we will play the winner, the winning voicemail of our contest to win a pair of tickets to see the Lions at practice next Wednesday in Allen Park. Also, Brad Holmes had an interesting comment last night on the television broadcast, which we will talk about. PFF grades. Woo-hoo-hoo! We are back with PFF grades, baby, from last night's loss to the Bengals, 16-14, top 5 and bottom 5 Lions on offense and defense. But let's start with last night. And as you know, we did a show last evening, and the immediate reaction from me, you can go back and check out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And this morning, I was guest hosting on the Locked On Lions squad show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network with Natalie Kerwin and the coach, Bradford Banta. Check that out as well. But a couple of things to recap from last night. And again, I opened last night's show talking about the play of Ahmed Hassanein. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that just because of 6th-round pick from last year had one good game, that all of a sudden he is going to be a lock to be a starter. That is not the case. He's had a tremendous camp. He had 2 sacks last night, nearly had a fumble recovery, 4 tackles, 3 solos, bunch of pressures, multiple quarterback hits, and Hassanein was clearly the best player on the field last night, which is what I said on last night's show. I'm not going to repeat myself, but let's pump the brakes on people tweeting at me today, people texting me today, friends of mine. Oh, Hassanein's going to start. No, he's not. No, he's not. They signed DJ Wanham for a reason. They drafted Derek Moore in the 2nd round for a reason. Again, Derek Moore hasn't practiced yet because he's got a hamstring injury. Hassanein looks good right now. It's been practices and preseason. I like him. I hope he stays. I hope he's a part of the rotation. I hope on some 3rd downs he's out there. Right? The Lions have had 3 edge rushers on the field on some 3rd downs in the past. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you just because he dominated the Cincinnati Bengals in a rain-soaked Paycor Stadium on August the 13th that he's the second coming of Rob Porcher or Lawrence Taylor or heck, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby. That is not what I'm saying. But it's exciting to know that that position has some real depth for the first time in a while. They like the play of Tyler Lacey, who, by the way, I didn't even realize played last night. Hutch, Moore, Wanham, right? The kid last night who had a decent game, Anthony Lucas. They know they can, move some guys to the outside. Derek Barnes can rush the passer. Nowaski. They seem to have some better depth along the defensive line than they've had in years. And that, as I've said before, that is where you win. It's where you win. And so that was on display last night, both on the defensive line and also on the offensive line. Now, I went back and watched, and there's 2 things I want to bring up about Miles Frazier. Number one, when he was at right guard last night in the first half, he committed 3 penalties. And that's unacceptable. Lions as a team had 9 penalties last night, which for preseason game number 1 is about right. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have a lot of flags. The Bengals were penalized a ton too. Frazier, though, while he did not play well, and we'll see what PFF thought, when he kicked out to left tackle, and he played every snap last night, by the way, every offensive snap, Miles Frazier was out there. He played 66 snaps last night, which is 100%. So they really utilized him a lot. So I thought he bounced back and played better at left tackle than he did at right guard in the game last night. So there's that. I don't know what that means for his future. I think Miles Frazier is going to be on the team as a backup, but he might be better suited playing left tackle than right guard, which is ironic because his best position in college at LSU was at the guard spot. The Ennis Rakestraw injury, which we talked about yesterday and we talked about this morning on the squad show too. I'll be interested in seeing either tomorrow or Sunday when the Lions are back on the field for practice in Allen Park down at 222. Will number 2, Ennis Rakestraw, be out there? They're saying that it is a bruised shoulder. That's what Dan Campbell said after the game. He has to be back this week. I'm not saying it's going to cost him a roster spot. I know Bradford Banta likes to say you're not going to make the club in the tub, meaning that you're in the hot or the cold tub in the training room. But it's important that he bounces back and, if healthy, is practicing, because there is this stigma around Ennis Rakestraw that he's never healthy. Going back to college, going back to his first 2 years here with the Leos, there's that stigma on him. Injury prone, will never play. And if it's just a bruise, I think he's got to show the coaching staff and his teammates, hey, I can get back out there pretty quickly and I can help this team have some success and help them win. Because I do think he's important. They put a second round capital into him a couple years ago. So that's another thing that, comes out of last night's game, certainly. One other one, too, is the Lions wide receiver room, I don't think has the depth that it had a year ago. Remember, when Isaac TeSlaa really came on last season, Lions traded Tim Patrick. Lions moved everybody up a notch. So TeSlaa kind of became wide receiver 4. Khalif Raymond was wide receiver 3. And right now, you're kind of reading the tea leaves and you're seeing what some of the beat writers and some of the folks that cover the team a lot closer than I do. There is some battles going on for some of those last wide receiver spots. I still believe that you've got J-Mo and Amon-Ra 1-2, of course. Amon-Ra number 1, J-Mo number 2. Everybody was saying TeSlaa is going to be wide receiver 3. I think it's going to be Greg Dortch. I do. I think Greg Dortch, he played 7 snaps last night, but I think that's a guy that right now has had a better camp so far than TeSlaa. Isaac last night struggled. 2 drops, ball right in his hands. It hits his hands, hits his helmet, his face mask, bounces up in the air, and the Bengals pick it off. But there's an underrated name to keep an eye on for the wide receiver 5 spot. And I don't know much about him. And he's made the rounds around the league, and he was playing the UFL last year. But a guy that graded out very well and made a really nice catch on the sideline is Tay Martin. Martin played 30 snaps last night, which was the second most to Dominic Lovett, who also struggled with the drops last night. But Martin was an undrafted free agent wide receiver, rookie free agent wide receiver back in 2022 by the Niners. He played at Washington State and Oklahoma State. Spent 3 years with the Niners, then on the Titans, then on the Commanders, bouncing back and forth between the practice squad and the regular roster. Last year was at the UFL Columbus Aviators. And now, back in June, signed with the Lions. Tay Martin, he's 28 years of age. And Tay Martin did not make one of the top 5 or bottom 5 for Pro Football Focus in terms of grades. But T. Martin last night did something that Dan Campbell, Scotty Montgomery, all the coaches would love. Tay Martin finished with a 60.5 PFF grade, but his run blocking grade at the wide receiver position was 78.3. Which is highest on the team. Like by far. 78.3 run blocking grade. That will win you a job. Wide receiver 5, Dominic Lovett, Tom Kennedy, TK85, all of those guys. Cedric Wilson, the veteran. Lucky Jackson, Malik Cunningham, Tariq Black, who had a touchdown. But Tay Martin made a really good grab on the sideline, and a grade of 78.3 as a run blocker will win you and score you points with the front office and the coaching staff. All right, speaking of those PFF grades, we will give you those. We will do that coming up next here on a Friday edition of Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions for today, brought to you by our friends at Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. You got one app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales. Somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't always just about the talent, right? It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like in business, all right? Businesses all the time make reactionary moves or sometimes bring in software systems that they hear are good but aren't effective for everybody, all right? That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Ask Dan Campbell. That's the coaching staff. It's about having a good fit for everybody. That's what Odoo's all about. Great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOODOO.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/lockedon. Friday edition of a Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network. Next week on the show, do you remember the big fella from a couple of years ago? He was on Hard Knocks. He was a backup offensive lineman for the Lions, Obinna Eze. Obinna is going to join us next week and tell us all about his experience with the Lions the last few years. Last year is with the Jets and Aaron Glenn, and is now retired. But Obinna still lives in town and kind of reconnected with him, and he's going to come on the show at some point next week. All right, PFF grades. I mean, come on. Does it get any better than Pro Football Focus and going over the numbers and the grades from last night's 16-14 preseason loss to the Cincinnati Bengals? The Lions will be back at it this coming Saturday for the preseason, or I should say, yes, the preseason game number 2, but the home preseason opener against the Washington Commanders next Saturday, the 22nd. At noon. All right, let's go through the top 5 offensive players from last night's game with the Bengals. And I don't think it should surprise anybody that the top offensive performer for the Lions last night, going from 1 to 5. We're going to go 1 to 5. Top player was Jacob Saylors, the running back, graded out with an 87.2. Cedric Wilson, the wide receiver, 73.0, was second. Batting third was Melvin Priestley, the offensive lineman, 66.9. I said on the squad show this morning, I thought Priestley played well. Blake Miller, Lions right tackle, 39 snaps, a 66.6 grade. And then fifth, Tariq Black, wide receiver, caught a touchdown pass, 65.6 for fifth. All right, we're going to go from worst to fifth worst in our bottom 5 numbers from last night's loss to the Bengals. Worst, lowest graded Lion on offense was Miles Frazier, 37.7. 3 penalties, a hold on a screen pass, which broke off for a big gain that came back. It's not a great night for Miles. Second lowest grade was the backup center, Michael Neese, at 38.6. Isaac TeSlaa, 2 drop passes. Third worst grade, 42. Larry Borum, playing a lot of left tackle, 4th lowest grade, 43.4. And Mason Miller, who played a backup right guard, 46.4. Those are your top and bottom Lions on offense from last night's game. All right, as far as the performers on defense against the Bengals, still can't believe Joe Burrow was out there last night. Hassanein said he called a shot. He told Dan Campbell, he was going to sack Joe Burrow. And remember, he did, like, on the very first play. Ahmed Hassanein was the highest graded Lion on defense, 89.9. 89.9. Excellent job from Hassanein last night. Second highest Lion graded out on defense last night was the linebacker, Amen Ogbong Bamiga, 87.1. Roger McCreary at an 87 was third. Eric Hunter, weak side linebacker, is 76. Nick Whiteside is at a great camp, the cornerback, 74 or 75.4. Those are your fifth or top five Lions on defense from our friends at Pro Football Focus. As far as defensively, the lowest graded Lions, let's go 5-1. Fifth lowest down to the lowest. Fifth lowest Lion graded out was Tyler Lacey at a 48.0. And again, I didn't realize Lacey was out there. He didn't do much last night. Chris Smith, the defensive tackle, 47.3. Lauren Strickland, before he got injured, 30.9. Tyree West, 4 snaps, 30.4. Again, just 4 snaps. Lowest graded Lion on defense and lowest graded Lion total in 22 snaps was Ennis Rakestraw with a 29.3. Oh, boy. Whew. I hope he's healthy, and I hope he gets better. 29.3 for Ennis Rakestraw. Ouch. Had a decent tackling grade, 77.9, but his coverage grade was a 28. And so he finished with a 29.3. So those are your top 5 and bottom 5 Detroit Lions on offense and defense from last night's game with the Bengals from our friends at Pro Football Focus. Brad Holmes was on the television broadcast last night, joining the young kid Jack Kaiser, who's on play-by-play. And for a lot of you, you probably don't even know who that is. Jack Kaiser is an Indianapolis kid, Ball State alum, does some games on the SEC network and some college baseball on ESPN and stuff. I believe I had heard through the rumor mill that this was a Jason Benetti choice. Jack Kaiser was on the TV broadcast with TJ Lang last night. And Brad Holmes I think it was the second quarter, or maybe it was the third quarter, Brad Holmes went in the booth with the fellas. And he made a comment last night that I found very interesting. He said that he and his staff, the pro personnel staff, the scouts, are still looking right now for Lions on other teams. And that is where they got Tyler Lacey last year from Jacksonville, that they liked him and identified him through the 3 preseason games that the Jags played last year. And they snagged him when the Jags released him at the end of the preseason. But Brad Holmes said pretty much to the guys last night in the booth that they're going to find more players. So as we go through the roster and as we genuflect about who's going to make the 53-man and who's going to be on the practice squad, just keep in mind, there are players on other teams that the scouts are watching. And if they like them, they're going to try to get them. Which I thought was something you don't normally hear a general manager say, because normally they say, look, we like the 90 guys we have right now. It's going to be tough to get down to 53. We're going to have to make 37 cuts, whatever it is. It's going to be hard. But Brad Holmes was very open about saying that his pro personnel and the scouting staff, they're looking for players now. And the minute maybe one of those guys, like there could be a team that has a very deep linebacker room or a very deep wide receiver room. Oh boy, there's a battle for 5, and the number 6 guy is right there. And if that guy gets let go, Brad wants to pounce. Now, I'm not saying it's a wide receiver. I'm just making a point that last night he was very adamant that they are still watching all these other games to try to add to the roster. And again, a lot of these guys are going to be very cheap that you get if that's the course that you go. So, but look, we got plenty of time left here. Plenty of time left. before Brad has to do anything. But I like the depth I saw from the D-line last night. All right, we told you this. We had a pair of tickets for next Wednesday, August 19th, Lions practice in Allen Park at 1 o'clock. And I told you, let's do a little contest. We love doing our call of the day. If you want to be our call of the day, go to speakpipe.com/Dery podcast page. And we told you, call in, leave a voicemail, but use some Locked On Lions isms. Say some things that I say on the show. All right, I've got some one-liners. I got some things I say. Sometimes I don't even know I'm saying them. But what are some of the Locked On Lions isms? We have a winner. We will play you that call because it is funny, and the dude did a really good job with it. And the winner will be announced coming up next. And Locked On Lions today brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a home run tonight, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. And if you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. And best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day's games, whether you're following your favorite team like the Tigers or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game is someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before first pitch. Tonight, your Detroit Tigers trying to get to first place. Can you believe this? The AL Central is so bad. The Tigers are below 500 and they're like 2.5 games out of first. Big series with the White Sox this weekend. Want to put some money down on one of the Tigers, one of the Sox, hit a home run, you could do so on FanDuel. So, are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who you think's hitting a home run. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, the official partner of MLB. All right, here we go. We had some great submissions for our call of the day and our contest to win tickets to next Wednesday's Lions practice. There were great submissions. Steve Rademacher, thank you for hitting us up. Chubbs, Millie Fisher, T-Money, Tom Moriarty, Vincent King over in the UK, and a bunch of others that hit us up. But we only went with one man. Ladies and gentlemen, our winner, and he'll be going to the game, to the practice next Wednesday. He better come into town for it. Matt from Denver with our call of the day. Take a listen to this.
Hey, Matt, it's Matt, your neighbor from Denver. Looking back at last year's camp at 222 former Rodwood Drive, it feels like the talk was all about the defense and who would be opposite Hayden Hutchinson. We had Dan, and Brad tell us we're good. But as mentioned just the other day by you on this very show, last season may have been the realization that Brad got a little fat and sassy after 15-2. A nice correction and preparation this year by the folks running the show, unlike Hockey Town with the Isaac plan. Man, we are so lucky to have good leadership, folks. But back to what I was saying. Was the defense we seem to be talking about. Now this year, down at the old Meyer Performance Center, even with the departure of Gaines media poster boy Alex Anzalone, all the CB and safety injuries, feels like everyone is more worried about the offense, specifically if the O-line will be better than last year. It should be. Remember, there are guys from the starting O-line last year that don't have a job yet, aren't even on a team. Even with so many skilled players, you got to remember this is a young team full of talent. Locked on NFL at 5 of your Honolulu Blue Warriors in the top 100. Our crack research staff tells me that Jared Goff was 8 spots ahead of Jordan Love. Peter Bukowski, the most hated man in Detroit, is probably not happy about that. More on that tomorrow. We're even getting talk out of camp from folks like Brocktober, the Brock Party, Brock Wright showing flashes. But the talk is offense. Listen, I'm no homer. I'm no slappy. I feel better about this season. And if it goes south, do we just put Tom Kennedy, TK85 out there for quarterback and enjoy the show? Thank heavens you haven't had to reach for the kicker list. We know it's there. Even with Jake Bates having an off day this week, we still have the punt god and the sud gun on our side. So, Diesel, what are fans more worried about, offense or defense?
Matt from Denver is our winner. Matt, please send me an email because I did not get Matt's email on his submission. My email, DerySpeaks@gmail. DerySpeaks@gmail. Got to hear from but Matt from Denver put a lot of effort into that. That was fantastic, man. I loved it. Thank you so much. He got the Dan in there, Gaines Media poster boy. He got 222 in there. He got them all in there. That was amazing. Great call. And what Matt's question was, what does he think the fans are more worried about? The fans are absolutely more worried about the defense, because when you're taking Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch out of that secondary and maybe not available for week 1 out of the equation, and you're plugging in some younger guys and some guys on 1-year deals like a Christian Izzy and a Roger McCreary, Chuck Clark, Thomas Harper, those are just not as good as players. And now we are seeing the fruits of Brad Holmes' drafting labor with Hassanein, albeit it's been 1 preseason game. But I think fans are worried about the defense. They're concerned. Look, losing the poster boy himself, did the Lions upgrade their linebacking core or not? Jack Campbell is awesome. He's an all-pro. But last year it was Campbell, Anzalone, and Barnes. Derek Barnes has to get better. In an off year last year. But replacing Alex with Malcolm Rodriguez or Devin White, or when he comes back from injury, Jimmy Rolder, that concerns the fans. There really wasn't a splashy defensive player signed. A lot of bit pieces, a lot of depth pieces. I do think the D-line room is going to be better. I like that Onwuzurike is back, and I hope he's healthy. But I think the fans are more concerned certainly about the defense than anything else. But congratulations to Matt from Denver. Matt, I hope you can use the tickets. Coming to town next Wednesday for the August 19th practice at 1 o'clock. To the rest of you, thank you for your efforts and submissions, and we'll do another contest maybe with some tickets later in the year. But I thoroughly enjoyed Matt's call. He had them all in there. Meyer Performance Center, Slappy, Peter Bukowski got a mention. Most hated man in Detroit sports. Love that. So, all right, that'll do it for us. We will return on Monday with a brand new week of Locked On Lions. Bina Eze, the former Lions O lineman, going to join us next week as well, right here on Locked On Lions.